Hi guys, Mr. Taylor. Today's lesson here in the video, obviously. So learning objective today is how can I vary the length and type of my sentences. So yeah, we're going to look at sentence types, we're going to look at sentence lengths, and we're going to look at why it's important to keep these varied in your writing and also how to actually do that. Okay, so this is what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and work out why is it important to vary our sentence lengths and types. Then we're going to look at how to actually do that. We're going to have a little recap on what simple, compound, adverb complex and verb complex sentences are. And then I've got a little task for you for subject and verb identification. Then I've got another task on sentence manipulation, which means changing. And then finally, I've got a little game for you to play at the end with some extended writing. Okay, so why is it important to vary our sentence lengths then? I've got this little thing I'm going to read you here that kind of demonstrates that to you. So it says, this sentence has 5 words. Here are 5 more words. 5-word sentences are fine, but several together become monotonous. Listen to what is happening. The writing is getting boring. The sound of it drones. It's like a stuck record. The ear demands some variety. So these are all obviously 5 words long, pretty boring. Now listen, I vary the sentence length and I create music. Music. The writing sings. It has a pleasant rhythm, a lilt, a harmony. I use short sentences and I use long sentences of medium length. And sometimes when I'm certain the reader is rested, I will engage him with a sentence of considerable length, a sentence that burns with energy and builds with all the impetus of a crescendo, the rolls of the drums, the crash of the cymbals, sounds that say, listen to this, it is important. So clearly these 2 paragraphs here sound better than this paragraph up here, and that is because you've got some really short sentences. You've obviously got this little guy down here that's quite long. You've got some medium sentences up there. It's varied. Okay, so it just sounds better when it's read if you can vary your sentences, and that's why we're doing this basically. I've got some music notes here because an analogy, something that would be similar to this, is if you had a song that was just one note over and over again, or 1 or 2 notes over and over again, it wouldn't be a very interesting song. It wouldn't be very nice to listen to. Whereas a song that you like listening to has probably got a wide variety of notes. Same's true of the writing. You don't want to use the same words over and over again, and you don't want to use the same sentence lengths over and over again. When will I have to vary my sentence lengths? Well, I've just got a few images here to show this. So if you ever want to do any creative writing, which you're going to have to do for your English exam, then you want to keep your sentence lengths and types varied, whether that's a letter, a news article, an email, instant messenger, conversations with your friends, these kind of things. Your communication overall, anywhere where you're communicating in written form, the quality of your writing is going to be better if you can do this. And then obviously you're going to have to communicate in written form for all of your exams. So it's going to be a useful skill for you to have no matter what the context of your writing. But at the very least, you're going to have to do this, and you'll get more marks for doing it in your English GCSEs. Okay, so a little recap then on sentence types. So we'll start off with simple sentences. Hopefully you remember this from the last couple of videos I've done. So a simple sentence is just one idea. It communicates one message. It has a subject, which is who or what the sentence is about. It has the verb, which is what the subject is doing. And then sometimes, I'll put a question mark to show that this sometimes happens, it's got some other bits and pieces in there. So I'll put that in brackets. So sometimes it's just subject and verb, like, I don't know, the dog farted. And sometimes it's got some other stuff here and after that, so it might say the dog farted in its bed or something like that. So that would extend it, but it's still just a simple sentence because there's still just one subject and there's still one verb. Okay, then you've got a compound sentence. All that is a sentence that makes sense completely, like that sentence I just said there, plus another sentence which makes sense on its own completely. Actually, these are called clauses, independent clauses. Independent clauses. And you can join these together with like and, but, or so, these kinds of things. So the dog farted and the cat meowed. Right, that'd be a compound sentence because you've got 2 subjects, the dog and the cat, and then you've got two verbs, farted and meowed. So you need two. Each side has to have a subject. Each side has to have a verb. Right, now a complex sentence is where you get a normal independent clause like those ones I just said up here. So you've got the subject, you've got the verb, and you ask yourself a question about the subject, or you ask yourself a question about the verb, and then you answer that question with a subordinate clause, which adds more detail, and you put a comma between it. So, for example, in the simple sentence that we used up there as an example, the dog farted, the subject is dog, and the verb is farted. What a question you could ask yourself about the verb is, in what manner, in what way did the dog fart? Or maybe he farted really suddenly, so you put suddenly, comma, the dog farted. And that would be a complex sentence starting with an adverb. The two types of complex sentences that I've taught you so far in the other videos are starting with adverbs, like the one that I've just shown you there, and the other one is starting with verbs. So to do the verbs one, you would just ask yourself, what else is the subject doing? And then you put that verb at the beginning, put a comma, and then put the rest of the sentence. Okay, so if you're rusty on these guys down here, these complex sentences, have a look at the other two videos that I sent on Google Classroom in the last couple of days, and that recaps it. You can go over those videos a few more times, practice those sentence types, and that'll help you. Okay, what I want you to do now, I want you to have a look through the sentences. I want you to have a look for the subject. I want you to have a look for the verb. And I want you to practice identifying them. Obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious. The reason you need to be able to identify verbs and you need to identify subjects is that if you can't do these, if you can't find the subjects in your sentences and you can't find the verbs in your sentences, you're going to struggle to write complex sentences. As we saw here, in my head, I had the dog farted. Well, I need to know what the verb is so that I can ask myself how the verb happens, right? So you need to be able to find the subjects and you need to be able to find the verb. So here are some sentences. Pause the video, work out what the subject is, work out what the verb is, and then we'll go through some answers afterwards. Okay, so the rabbit jumped over the hedge. Who or what is the sentence about? It's about the rabbit. So the rabbit is the subject. What did the rabbit do? The rabbit jumped, so jumped is the verb. Seagulls soared overhead and waves lapped against the shore. So we've got, this is a compound sentence because there's two sides joined together by conjunction. And the first side, seagulls, is the subject and soared is the verb. In the second side, the independent clause over here, the waves are the subject and lapped is what they're doing, so that's the verb. Silently, clouds floated above the happy holiday makers visiting the beach. It's a bit of a longer sentence, isn't it? So this one, it's about the clouds. What's going on there? It's about the clouds. That's who or what the sentence is about. It's the noun at the beginning of the sentence. And what are they doing? They're floating. So that is the verb. And this is an adverb complex sentence. So the subordinate clause at the beginning answers the question, in what way are the clouds floating? They're floating silently. Waving his red plastic spade excitedly, the little boy ran towards the sand. The subject here is the little boy, and what's he doing? He's running, subject and verb. This bit on the beginning is a subordinate clause, a verb phrase subordinate clause. You ask yourself, what else is the little boy doing other than running? He's also waving his red plastic spade. The sun shone down on the azure sea. The noun at the beginning, who or what the sentence is about, is the sun. What's the sun doing? It's shining. That's a verb. So sun subject and shone is the verb. Crabs scurried away from the noisy families. Who or what is the sentence about? The subject is crabs. What are they doing? They're scurrying. So the verb is scurried. Okay. Hopefully you got those right. I'm now going to do a sentence manipulation task. So I'm going to tell you for each sentence, I want you to do something different to it. Okay, so the first one, the rabbit jumped over the head. edge, I want you to turn that into a complex sentence. It's currently a simple sentence. Seagulls soared overhead and waves lapped against the shore. I want you to split that into two different complex sentences. These complex sentences, remember, could start with an adverb, or they could start with a verb. They could start with another one as well if you want, if you know others, but feel free to just use those, the ones we've been working on this week. Silently, clouds floated above the happy holidaymakers visiting the beach. This one, I want you to turn it into a compound sentence. Waving his red plastic spade excitedly, the little boy ran towards the sand. I also want you to turn that into a compound. The sun shone down on the azure sea. I would like you to turn that into a complex. Crabs scurried away from the noisy families. I would like you to turn that into a complex as well. And then you can just do this in your Word file or wherever you're doing your work today. All right, so pause the video and do that now. Okay, so the final task for today's lesson then, where you can put all of this into practice, is a creative writing task. Before you start, you're either going to need an actual dice. So if you've got a dice lying around the board game at home or something, you can use that. Or if you don't, then you can just click on this link. Or you might not be able to click on it actually, where there's a video. Well, you can type in this to your search bar, or you can just go to Google and type in dice and then click on the first option. And what you're going to do is, for every sentence, you're going to roll the dice. And then if you get a 1, you're going to use a simple sentence for that particular sentence. And then when you finish that sentence, put a full stop. You're going to roll the dice again. And then if it's a number 2, you're going to write a compound sentence. If it's number 3, you're going to write an adverb complex. If it's a number 4, you're going to write a verb complex. If it's a 5, you're going to write an extra long simple sentence. So you could add extra adjectives and things like that to just make your simple sentence a bit longer. And then if you get a number 6, would like you to do a compound complex. Oh, I just wrote compound. I'd like you to write a compound complex, which is where you write a complex sentence, and then after you finish that complex sentence, do and, but, or so, and then write another independent clause afterwards. If you are not sure how to do that one, then you can just do another complex for number 6. Okay, so do this until you've done about half a page of writing. Do it all in one paragraph and describe this beach. Maybe you want to do a story about someone that's lost on a desert island or something, or a shipwreck. Write it up in the Word file, email it across to me, and I'll send you some feedback. All right, thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.